And now I'm curious to hear what happens if I fully push this into saturation. Let's hit the transformer hard. Here we go.
It's crawling in my bones until my head explodes. I'm batting on my own. Yeah, I was born.
Oh, wow.
Born to do the show.
Today I'm gonna mix a song as analog as possible. Analog console, analog outboard. Old school, like back in the days. Let's find out how that sounds. Analog EQ, analog compression, analog saturation, and of course, analog summing. Today you can watch me mixing an entire song from start to finish, every step of it. And the song I'm talking about is a pretty awesome vintage rock song that I originally mixed in the box 6 years ago. Let's have a listen to my final analog mix. Enjoy!
On my mind, and I need to explain. It's testing me like fire, like a bug inside my brain.
So the question is, do we still need analog gear? Especially, do we still need analog consoles? They're heavy, they're bulky, and they're crazy expensive. I know, the luxury, of course, but they also have a sound, even without countless emulation and saturation plugins that you guys are all using, especially if you're working on a tone machine like this Harrison console that I was using. The EQ, by the way, is very, very special. You'll hear it in a minute. Anyway, it's also like a different way of working on an analog console because you don't have any displays and you got to follow your ears a lot more. I just wanted to find out how different the results are if I do this in an analog environment. So I kind of invited myself to the German Harrison distributor in Heilbronn, Audio Pro, and because I have a lot of Harrison outboard gear, and I was like, hey, can I use and abuse your console? And they said, yeah, come in. So I spent a day there. Did the mix. The setup I used was my Creative Devices laptop. I was mixing on my Odyssey LCDX headphones. I did everything on headphones because I wasn't familiar with the rooms and the speakers there. And I did not bring an audio interface because the console had an inbuilt Dante interface. Of course, there are some things that you can't do in analog, like reverb or some notch filters or some special effects. But those were pretty much the only things I did digitally, you know. So, you don't have to be more Catholic or you don't have to be more satanic than the devil himself, if you know what I mean. What you are about to watch is a 25 minutes, the highlights of that mix, some of the highlights. But you know what? You can watch the entire mix, 2 or 3 hours even, for free. It's just a little too much for YouTube. Follow the link below. You have to create an account. It's totally free. And then you can watch the entire mix every step. But now it's time for the highlights. So let's go back in time, back to the future of analog, so to say. And let's mix the Alligator wine. Enjoy. I want to EQ the drum bus, make it sound a little more hi-fi, like pull out some of the mids, maybe add some highs, and very important, add some parallel SSL style bus compression. So what we're going to do is we're going to route all the drums to subgroup number 1 and 2. So I think I've already done that. Yeah. Let's bring in the subgroup. Let's see if that worked. That worked. You can hear that I'm not sending the reverb into the subgroup because I don't want to compress the reverb. And now we can have some fun with this thing here. And I got my standard settings for this. I have the attack usually around 6 milliseconds, where it is right now. I'm using the high pass filter and the sidechain around 200, what is it? Yeah, something like that. I'm using the auto release. I'm going to bring back the dry signal as well. Ratio, whatever, 2:3:1. Let's see how that sounds. And that just adds the smack and the attack that you want. Right now we're listening to 100% wet, which is a little extreme. I'm usually aiming for something like 6 dB of compression, and then I bring back the dry signal. And that really turns a bunch of individual drum mics into, it glues it into one instrument. Let's move on to our EQ. We've got this ultra violet EQ on the drum bus. Never used it before. Seems to be like a normal 4-band EQ. What I want to do is add a little bit of high frequencies and pull out, once again, around 400 or 500. Let's see how that works. I like that. So compression, EQ will be fine-tuned later. But yeah, I'm getting more and more happy. This sounds more and more like a drum kit. And since we do have an insert switch on our subgroup, which is very handy, we can, with the push of a button, bypass all the outboard and hear the difference between with and without. So this is with the outboard. Really nice. Another very nice feature of this console is that there is a transformer switch on the master bus. So if you push this button, you can add a transformer, which adds a little analog mojo, especially in the lows. So let's see how that sounds on the drums. And how beautiful. Once again, this just glues things together. I think this should be turned on all the time. So from now on, this is turned on. Time to move on with the bass. It's actually not a bass guitar, it's a Moog bass. I remember we were going through a Tube Screamer. This is the main bass track. I'm routing it to channel 9 and 10 on the console. But we also have another bass track called Bass Farfisa, and it's a stereo bass, which sounds like this. Also with some modulation on it and a delay and just a little more spacious and stereo. And the idea was to combine those two like this. And there's not a lot to do. I just feel like it needs a little compression and maybe a little more grit and bite in upper mids. I want to start with the high shelving. Let's see how this sounds. And this is exactly what I want, no questions. Now I feel like the bass could be a little more stable, so let's use some analog compression. I got some more modules here, so I just pulled them out, and we're gonna use the Harrison compressor, which is, if I'm honest, it sounds great, but it is a one-trick pony. It's more like a leveling type of compressor, but for something like this, it could work. So let's turn on the insert where we have patched the compressor to, and let's see if we can get a signal. And I'm compressing this in dual mono, which will make it sound a little more stereo, which is kind of cool because we're compressing both sides individually. Ratio is on 1:6 right now, which is quite extreme. Let's just fiddle around with it and see how it works. Just a little stability and a more wider stereo image. I kind of like that. Let's see how it sounds with the drums. I guess we've got a pretty good basic balance between the drums and the bass now. You can see that we've got a whole bunch of organ tracks here in green. Let me give you an overview. So the basic organ was, I don't know, it wasn't a Hammond, was it a Hohner or something? But that was actually going into a Leslie cabinet, and we mic'd it with several stereo pairs. By the way, all the organs are going out, hopefully here, to the channels 11, 12. Classic way of recording a Leslie. I think we were using two AKG 414s like on each side of the Leslie, so the rotation of the speaker would give this nice stereo effect. And then we had two pairs of ribbon microphones. So we had a ribbon mic a few meters, maybe 2 or 3 meters away. And finally, we've got a room far. And now I can hear that I clearly want to have more reverb on the snare. And I think this is the perfect moment to bring back our fantastic crazy snare reverb. Let's see if that helps. Track that makes it sound a little out of control, which is what I like and just the right thing for this kind of music. So let's just leave it there. You know what? I feel like all the organs deserve a little more bite. Let's use that beautiful shelving EQ. You can fully crank that thing, 10 or 12 dB at, what is that, 2K or something, and it still sounds kind of musical. That high shelf band is money. Nice, nice, nice. So let's move on with our mix bus processing. And what we're going to use is this SSL Fusion box that I've never used before, but it seems like it can do a lot. Let's see. I don't even know what space is. Let's have a listen. That's interesting. That space thing sounds like pushing the lower mids in stereo or something. It's kind of cool. Let's move on with the EQ. The only thing I might want to add right now is just a little low frequency boost. Why not? 70 Hertz boost. Let's try the vintage drive. There's a drive and density knob. Let's see. It definitely adds some kind of compression. Sounds fatter and smoother and more like a record to me. I know that sounds stupid, but it really helps. This thing is cool, SSL. I'm surprised. Nice. Very much usable. And I think we are once again one step closer to something that we can call a real mix. Maybe a little more snare punch. Can I get that from the EQ? Let's try. Or maybe the snare just needs to be louder, the closed mic? I don't know. A little more punch, low band, almost cranked. Okay, now I feel like the main organ needs some kind of normal reverb maybe. So let's add another seventh heaven, of course. Let's always use the same thing. And I'm gonna send all three tracks, all three microphone pairs of the main organ into that reverb. Boom. Probably some kind of plate. Or even something really long like this. Maybe that's cool because everything sounds a little too dry still. Let's try. I feel like I want to have a little more low end coming from the bass. Let's see if we can push the lows a little bit with the EQ. And this is once again crazy. This is like 10 or 12 dB, like fully pushed, and it sounds so musical. There is something magic about this EQ. Okay, so this is a little much. Maybe let's go for something like 5 dB. Drums feel a little dry and harmless to me, so maybe I want to add a little more room or a little more fuzz mic or a little more reverb. Let's try. Start with room and fuzz mic. Yeah, everything seems to glue a little better now. I mean, before we haven't added the vocals, we don't know for sure, but this seems to make sense. We've got the vocals in purple here. We've got one main vocal track, and the rest is backing vocals already in stereo and effect vocals and some other crazy shit. But let's just route our main vocal track in mono to this channel, number 13. It sounds like this.
It's crawling in my bones until my head explodes. I'm dancing on my own.
Not exactly the cleanest vocal track you've ever heard, right? I think we tracked this through a tube screamer because it felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah, I was born to do the show.
If I hear this one soloed, I feel like even if it's already quite compressed, I want to compress it a little more, maybe even with parallel compression. And it needs to be EQ'd a little bit. The tube screamer has a natural high cut filter, so it rolls off the very high frequencies. I want to bring some of them back. At the same time, I feel like it sounds a little edgy around 2-3K.
It's testing me like fire, like a bug inside my brain. It's crawling in my bones until my head explodes. I'm dancing on my own.
So I want a little bit more of that, but I'm also gonna engage the filter and like cut the very highest frequencies.
Yeah, I was born to do the show.
Like this. And now I want to take care of the rather harsh upper mid frequencies.
All I wanna know is what you want me to say.
This.
Where is my freaking mind? Stuck in my goddamn brain.
And we can also remove some of the very lows with the low cut filter.
Your pride. Hey mama, hey. All I wanna know.
So now things sound a little brighter, but less hard, less edgy maybe.
Hey mama, hey. All I wanna know is what you want me to say. Where is my freaking mind? Stuck in my...
Next, let's add some reverb. And because I'm lazy, the fastest thing I can do is just bring in the drum plate reverb. Let's see how that sounds.
My goddamn brain. Impossible to find. Oh, how do you make it go away? I got piercings in my legs that you will never.
And remember, with this stereo aux send, we're shooting back the signal into the DAW, and we're actually like going into a plugin, the Seventh Heaven, and then going back into the console. So you're using a plugin, but it's fed from the console, which just makes the workflow really fast and easy.
Take another sip. Oh, swallow the poison of your pride.
This sounds pretty good. But you know what? There's more cool stuff that you can do with a console like this. Because we are in the analog domain, there is no latency. And especially if we work with outboard gear, it is very easy to drive it in parallel, especially to do parallel compression. And we can do this by using the subgroups. You've seen me using the first two subgroups in stereo, just as my master fader for the drums.
Oh, swallow the poison of your pride.
So here I got my drums, but on subgroup number 3, I've done something else. We've patched in some outboard gear there, a compressor, the 4000B dynamics. I think they're the most aggressive SSL dynamics coming from the very early 4000 consoles. And what I want to try is, I have my vocals on this fader, number 13, but if I also send this into subgroup number 3, where I have the compressor inserted, I can bring in a highly compressed signal just to make the vocal sound a little more stable. So let's shoot the vocals into the SSL B dynamics.
Until my head explodes. I'm dancing on my own.
Going almost up to 10 dB of compression. And then I can bring back the return signal here. The settings are as extreme as possible. Very fast release time. Ratio is 10 to 1, so pretty extreme compression. Let's hear what this sounds like. We start with the dry signal, and when I pull this up, we are adding the compressed signal.
I got something on my mind, and I need to explain. It's testing me like fire, like a bug inside my brain.
Nice. Let's try this in the mix.
Until my head explodes, I'm dancing on my own. Yeah, I was born to do the show. Hey mama, hey my hey, all I wanna know.
And this makes the vocals a little more stable, and it also brings up like the breathing and all the quieter moments and makes it sound a little more intimate. Nice. Parallel compression made easy. I gotta say, I'm pretty much happy. This sounds really cool. You remember that this console has an output transformer that is switchable. We've turned it on because it sounded so cool on the drums, and now we have been mixing into the transformer. Now, by pushing the output fader, you can push the output transformer as well, which, by the way, is a Jensen nickel transformer, like a 1-to-1 transformer. So it's not adding any amplification, it's just here to color the tone of our mix. And the more I push the fader, the harder we hit that thing. And that's something I want to try now. Let's hit the transformer hard. Here we go.
It's crawling in my bones until my head explodes. I'm dancing on my own. Yeah, I was born.
Oh wow.
Born to do the show. Hey mama, hey my hey.
Yes, it starts clipping, especially in the low end. It gets really, really vibey and dirty. And of course, this is a little too much, but I kind of enjoy pushing it a little bit. Let's go. I'll go just to the point where I don't actively hear the low end clipping and falling apart. What is this? 5 dB, pushed 5 dB. This is the beauty of an analog console. You can just push things and make them come alive and sound more vibey. And especially for this kind of music, it really helps. I'm back home. I'm back at Kohle studio to do the final mastering of our Alligator Wine Harrison mix, and all I'm using for the mastering is the brand new Ozone 12. I'm a big Ozone fan. So far I have been using Ozone 8 actually, and I just switched to Ozone 12 and I'm quite excited. So let's have a listen to our final master, to the version with the transformer, and you can also have a look at the plugin while we're listening.
And I need to explain, it's testing me like fire, like a bug inside my brain. It's crawling in my bones until my head explodes. I'm dancing on my own. Yeah, I was born to do the show. Hey mama, hey my hey, all I wanna know.
That sounds nice. So let's compare this to the original.
Mama, hey my hey, all I wanna know, all I wanna know. Hey mama, hey my hey, all I wanna know is what you want me to say. Where is my freaking mind? Stuck in my goddamn brain. Impossible to find. Oh.
So So ironically, the new version sounds a lot more open, a lot more hi-fi. So, you might expect the analog mix to sound a little more muffled or darker or something, and it's actually the opposite. It sounds really fresh and modern. Of course, it's not only because of the analog gear. It's 6 years later and I'm remixing the song, but I am very happy how this turned out because it sounds really, really nice.
That you will never find, and I'll take another sip.
I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt you here. And before I speak about analog versus digital, before we analyze this, let me just tell you, if you want to see more of this, you can watch the entire mix for free. Just click the link below. I think it's 2.5 hours of me mixing that song. That's just a little too much for YouTube. You gotta create a free account, but it's gonna cost you nothing. Check the link below and watch the whole mix. Now, I'm not gonna tell you that analog sounds better than digital, but I gotta say I was quite shocked still, because I remember how long it took me to make the original mix. That took me very, very long. And this time I went into this room and started working on a console and a lot of gear I had never used before. And after a few hours, I came out with something that sounded amazing, much faster, and it was so easy. And remember, I was talking to you all the time while mixing. So I was quite shocked how good that sounded. So what I think is analog doesn't sound better than digital. But if you use the right analog gear, if you mix on a console like this, it's just gonna make your life a little easier. It's going to speed up your workflow because a console like this has a sound, and that already pushes everything a little bit into the right direction. So you have to do less and things just, come together and glue better. That's how I would describe it. So it was very, very intuitive, and it makes you work differently. I felt really connected with the music. Maybe because I was not looking at plugins and displays and frequency responses and waveforms. I was just, using my ears to mix. And that was kind of, I felt connected, and it was very intuitive and very relaxed and very fast. So that got me thinking. That really got me thinking. Because when I was done with the mix, I was like, wow, this was fun, but let's go home first and analyze the mix. And then I was quite blown away by how good it was. Anyway, I know that most of you guys won't start working on an analog console anymore in 2025. Fair enough, I get it. But maybe this video inspired you a little bit to start thinking about your mixing process, because it got me thinking. Maybe it gets you thinking as well. And I gotta say, I truly endorse the Harrison stuff because it just feels great, it sounds great, and maybe if you want to make your life a little more analog again, check out the Harrison 500 modules. They sound great, especially the EQ and the preamp. The compressor is cool as well, but it's not a must-have. And I think one of the smartest products of this year was actually the Harrison channel strip. I'm recording my voice through that channel strip right now using the preamp and the EQ. It's a really, really smart product with the EQ, the filters, the preamp, several inputs, and you can even connect several of them and turn them into a console and a summing box. It's cool. Check it out. I'll put some links below. Anyway, analog, digital, what do you think about this? Please let me know. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know how you like my mix, blah, blah, blah. I want to read it here in the comments, okay? So I'm going to read all the comments and answer them. I also want to say thank you to Audio Pro in Heilbronn and to Harrison for letting me use and abuse their console. And I want to say thank you to the Alligator Wine, the band. Another link, please check out the band. And to Century Media and Sony for letting me use the tracks in this video. That was really cool of you. Yeah, check out the band. We did like 2 albums together and an EP. Really, really nice band. Like, they have some really, really deep and spacious songs as well. Check them out. Alligator Wine, great band. Whew, so that was a long video. Again, click the link below to watch the entire mix. Please leave a comment, analog versus digital. I want to hear your opinion. That's all for today. See you deep down in hell, my friends and motherfuckers. Bye-bye.